friends, welcome back to my channel. It's your host Becca. So glad you're here with me today. It's going to be another Grit and Wit podcast episode. So we're going to talk about some things. Now, before we get started, if you have any other requests for videos, if you have suggestions for topics that you want discussed, or if you want just something totally different from the Grit and Wit podcast, make sure you let me know in the comments and I will try to hook you up with what you're looking for, okay? And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time there's a new episode, and like today's video. Share it with a friend because sharing is caring. Okay. All right. Y'all ready? We're going to get this party started. Let's do it. Now, I don't know if y'all were here in the beginning of 2020 when we were talking about goals and we were just real excited about what 2020 was going to look like. And obviously things did not turn out how we expected them to. And that is okay because prayerfully we are all learning something and taking something away from what is happening today. Anyways, so what I shared with you guys, I shared some goals for this year, and one of them was to read one book a month. And let me just tell y'all, so far so good. Now, sometimes it's been 2 months, 2 books over 2 months, because I sometimes will read 2 books at the same time, which takes me then longer, but it averages to the same. So I'm just gonna say I've been successful, and I'm reading right now The Way of Hope by Melissa Fisher, and it has been a delight. It's been so good, and if you want to go pick that up, you should. She's not paying me. It's just that good that I would recommend it. Now, she recounts the story of a woman caught in adultery from John chapter 8. And I'm just going to take a moment and read the story to you so we are all on the same page. You maybe have never ever heard of the story. So we're all going to read it together. So if you want, you can pause right here and you can go grab your Bible if you want and read along. I do want to apologize. I had it marked and now it's not marked. So here we go though. I got it. John 8, and we're going to read verses 1 through 11. And it says, "But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came again into the temple, and all the people were coming to him, and he sat down and began to teach them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery, and having set her in the center of the court, they said to him, 'Teacher, this woman has been caught in adultery in the very act. Now, in the law of Moses, he commands us to stone such a woman. What then do you say?' They were saying this, testing him, so that they might have grounds for accusing him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground. But when they persisted in asking him, he straightened up and said to them, 'He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her.' Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And when they heard it, they began to go out, one by one, beginning with the older one, and he was left alone, and the woman, where she was in the center of the court. Straightening up, Jesus said to her, 'Woman, where are they? Did no one condemn you?' She said, 'No one, Lord.' And Jesus said to her, 'I do not condemn you either. Go, from now on, sin no more.'" Now, some of us have possibly experienced the shame that the woman in the circle experienced that day. We've had someone embarrass us, judge us, call us out, hurt us. We have experienced shame even brought on by our own actions, by mistakes that we've made, by sinful, stuff that's happened in our lives, and we have been put on Front Street, so to speak, and everyone has maybe found out about that thing that you've tried to hide, but we've experienced Jesus step in and rescue us because that's who he is. He is our rescuer. And today, maybe you have never experienced that. Maybe you have not seen Jesus show up for you like that. I want to pray that the Lord would do that because that's who he is. That's what he does. He saves, he heals, he delivers. I have no doubt about it in my mind. And if you have not experienced that in your life, I pray right now that in a very real way for you, that he would show up and you would take notice of him. And that would be your story, that Jesus rescued you. Now, for today's subject, I want us to take a look at those who were gathered around her. Those people, the scribes, the Pharisees that surrounded her, stones in hand, ready to hand out judgment. And it was lawful at the time, right? The law of Moses said, we can stone her. That's what the law of Moses said. And I imagine that maybe one of those gathered around might have been her husband. Right? Or maybe one of the onlookers in the temple was the wife of the man that she had been with. People with every right to be angry. Right? We wouldn't take it. Of course we would understand their right to be angry. They were justified in their stances. And that's what we do. We look for those reasons, that right to be angry or vengeful. Because we like being right. We like being justified in our viewpoints, whatever they might be. And could we be the ones caught with stones in our hands? At some point in our lives, I'm sure we've all been those people. Stone in hand, ready to let another person have it. Because some of us are really good at letting people have it. And we're proud of that. God's like, I don't want you to let them have it. I want you to let it go. And we live in a world where we have our opinions and our stances and our sides. And if you aren't on the quote unquote right side of things, then we will let you know just how wrong you are and how right we are. And we aren't throwing literal stones, but we are throwing things like shade, snide comments, eye rolls, passive aggressive jabs, literal jabs, Facebook rants, and let me just say this. Please stop with the Facebook rants. Do you know who's reading your Facebook rants? The people that probably already agree with you, or the people that just want to argue with you because they think they're right as well, and their rant is just as important as your rant. And do you know what that solves or proves? Nothing. Please. Oh my goodness, y'all. If there's one thing you take away from this, if you are a Facebook ranter, I want to just beg of you to not Facebook rant any longer. Okay, today I want us to do some self-evaluation. That is, self-examinate what is happening in us. I talked about how important this is to our mental health last week. I talked about we need to make sure that we're paying attention to what is happening in our lives and what we're thinking and what we're doing and what we're saying. Paying attention to what's happening. And so, who are you throwing stones at? And now here are some questions that can help you figure that out, okay? To identify those people. Who makes you angry? When you are out and about and you see certain people, maybe they're doing certain things, saying certain things, wearing certain things. Who makes you angry? You might have somebody right now that comes into your mind. Who do you disagree with? Maybe it wouldn't be noticeable for you. Maybe it would have to be something that they would say. They would have to express their viewpoint for you to know, but once they did, you would know who that was. Who do you have a hard time getting along with? Recently, I was in a local store and an elderly lady was fussing at the cashier. I couldn't hear the whole conversation word for word, but the gist of it was that she was angry because the manager was not making everyone in the store wear a mask. Customers and employees. She was angry. Now, before you check out or start stating your case or deciding where you stand and what you believe and why you believe it, let me just tell you that I am not advocating for either side of the argument. I am not here to argue my opinions about face masks, the law, or the lack thereof about them, or anything else related to that. I am not here to argue my opinions. There are no sides here on the Great White podcast except for the side of Jesus. And he always takes the way of kindness and gentleness. So, Lord, help us do the same as we navigate this season that we are in. Now, I just want to warn you, I am going to share my personal opinion about what I think was happening with her, with the woman who was angry, right? I think that the woman was probably angry about people not wearing masks because she is fearful. I think that a lot of our stone throwing, right? She was mad at the girl that was waiting on her, mad at the store. But I think it was because she's scared. She's fearful. And a lot of our stone throwing is because we're fearful. I think that maybe some of the women even gathered around, some of the men gathered around the woman, some of the Pharisees, some of the Sadducees were fearful because Jesus had stepped onto the scene and he was changing things up, and we fear change. We fear change, and I'm sure they wanted him to step in and to say that the law of Moses was right because they wanted that black and white. They didn't want what Jesus had. They wanted the black and white, the things that they knew. They were really good at following, well, kind of following the law. But what happens is Jesus tells them, if you don't have any sin, go ahead and throw the stone. But they had sin in their lives. We all do. But fear drives us to stone others. So maybe part of our stone throwing is because we're fearful. And isn't our nation in a state of fear right now because of the virus? Fear of the virus, fear of catching it, fear of spreading it, fear of the government infringing on our freedoms, fear of, is this a conspiracy theory? What is happening? So many unknowns, like fear of what if we don't find a cure, fear of what if we phase back in, and then like there's a spike and it's just all of these fears that are happening and that put us on edge, and out of fear of, I need to defend myself, we pick up a stone and we lash out at others. And if fear isn't the culprit, maybe it's pride or power. No one gets to tell me what to do. I'm not scared. I'm not wearing a face mask. And if you don't like it, then you can stay home. How many of us have thought that or said that? Honestly. Stones that we are just hurling at people. And for what? Because we don't want to be told what to do. Which I get. I don't like to be told what to do, right? But Lord, forgive us for lashing out at the people who want to wear masks. Who are erring on the side of caution. Let us drop those stones. They are heavy and dirty, and they take up our strength and our capacity to do other things. We can't do other things when our hands are gripping stones. You know, Jesus is asking us right now, drop them. Stop throwing glares and eye rolls at the person who is or isn't wearing a mask, whatever side you stand on. Whether you wear one or don't wear one, can we be kind to the people on the other side that are not in agreement with what we think should be done? Drop the stones of judgment thrown at those who are ready to phase back in when you think that we should stay at home. And vice versa, if you have someone who isn't ready to go back into the public, put your stone down that tells them that they need to. Instead of stones in hand, we need to be carrying around the fruit of the Spirit. And we're going to bust the word out again because I love Jesus' word, because there's so much goodness in here that we need to apply to our lives. And if you want to go with me, we're going to look at Galatians 5:22 through 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. Now, what if we started throwing fruit around instead of these stones, okay, friends? And if we feel ourselves leaning into anything that does not line up with this fruit, if you feel yourself going for that stone again, can we drop it and walk away from it? If it's fear, Lord, help me. Fear has no place in Jesus' name. Fear is from the enemy. If you feel fear or pride in your life, Lord, help us. God, take it and remove it. Help me to overcome this, because fear is from the enemy and pride is from the enemy as well, as also kind of like a flesh thing that we just want. We are in our flesh prideful. So God, help me to die to that flesh. I don't want to be prideful. I don't want to be fearful. Neither of those things line up with his fruit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If we started hurling our fruit around, the fruit of the Spirit, instead of stones, would not our world be a better place? Like, we have enough to worry about without fighting one another. And so I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to take Galatians 5:22 through 23, and I want you to write it down or like type it in your phone, screenshot it, put it as your background. I'm sure you can find like a pretty phone background if you want to be pretty about it. You can write it down. You can put it somewhere that you're going to see it. And I want to encourage you to memorize it. I want you to, like, every time you start to think something, I want you to ask yourself, is this fruitful? Every time you want to say something, I want you to think, is this fruitful? Before you post it on Facebook, I want you to think, is it fruitful? All right, friends. So grateful that you joined me today. I know, like, this, I hope that this was beneficial. I just really felt like the Lord put that on my heart to share today. He's been really dealing with me. I've had some really maybe strong opinions about some things. I've tried to be gentle about it. I definitely have felt him working in me and working some things out with me. And so I pray that this spoke to your heart today too. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, if you had something that you felt like you took away from it, let me know. Leave a comment, leave a rating, a review, share it on social media, whatever your favorite form is, and take care of yourself. Take care of your spirit. Take care of your soul, of your mind, of your health. If the weather is nice, I want to encourage you, spend some time outside. Breathe in the fresh air. Soak in the sunshine. Move your body if you're able, and spend some time with the Lord. So, a few things I want to tell you about before we wrap up today. I do have an at-home workout program, so I know some of the gyms are kind of opening up, but if you're looking for a way to take care of your health and wellness while at home, I do have an at-home program, and I will link that in the show notes. And then also, Revelation Wellness just released their Couch to 5K program. It's $29. It's an 8 or 10 week program, but you get so much goodness in it. I just started it myself, so if you join me in that, make sure you let me know. I want to know who else is hitting the pavement. And yeah, all right, friends, I hope that you have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you next week. See you then.